All right, so friendly reminder, ladies and gentlemen, that tomorrow is the final day of Nigeria. I will finish content tomorrow. Thursday, you are taking your last 25 question test. On Friday, you are coming in. You are going to pick up all of your prompts because it's writing week. We know that, yes? We start with writing week, APComp. On Friday, you're going to pick up your prompts. I'm going to tell you what essays, and then we're going to put everything away, and we're going to pass back papers because it's obscene how many papers there are. So it's a super chill, low-key day. On Monday, we officially begin writing week. Of course, you'll write not a ton of essays over the weekend, but you'll write. And then when you come back, we are writing from Monday to Thursday night because the end of the week is Friday. So you'll be writing till Thursday night. Friday you come in, we'll grade, and then you'll pick up your assignments for going into AP Gov review. We have 2 weeks of AP Gov. Then we do AP Gov writing week. Then we do AP comparative. And then it's exam.
So it's an AP Gov, right?
What?
The content?
Yeah, it's all AP comparative next week.
Oh, it's AP.
It's AP comparative, and then AP Gov will be the second one. What?
So we are or are not writing essays this Friday?
Like Friday, like this Friday, like in 2 days? You're getting assigned essays, but we're passing out papers because it's so full. It's so full. So we need to get that stuff out. But writing is happening, and we're in review. What?
Do these essays count for fourth quarter?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, just make sure. I figured.
Yeah, the end of your grade collection for third quarter will be Thursday when you turn in your focus, your vocab, and your test. All right. So today I'm teaching some big stuff today. A little tricky. Lots of dates coming at you and concepts. So yesterday we talked about pre-Bendelism, which was part of your do now. It's about this whole tribalism mentality. Okay, when we talk about pre-Bendelism, it is at the foundation of every aspect of Nigeria. Can we agree? It is completely fragmenting political society of Nigeria. Nothing goes untouched from it. It is all about this whole collection of us versus them. It is the belief that take care of oneself, and that leads to plenty of corruption and delegitimacy of government structures, which is a huge component. Quick review. What does the geography of northern Nigeria look like, Brooklyn?
Very mountainous and hard to navigate.
Okay, and what group of people live up there? I don't necessarily care about that. What type of religious people?
Muslims.
They're Muslims, absolutely. And what specific group of Muslims live up there? They're a terrorist group. Oh, Brooklyn. Jordan. Boko Haram. And why does the geography affect Boko Haram? Come on now, connect it, pull it through. Jordan.
Because the outsiders don't know how to get through and Boko Haram know how to navigate.
Okay, well, what about the Nigerian military? Are they able to defeat them? No, because they're from that territory. They know the location, all of those things. What does the South look like, Nick? I'm sorry, what? Do better, Nick. Let's pull together a cohesive thought, please. What does the South look like in comparison to the North? Okay, we're doing better. Mr. Clark, please save me.
That's near water.
That's not saving me, Mr. Clark. Sophia?
It's more industrialized.
It's more industrialized. It's going to be your 21st century. What is the major focus in the South? Desmond? Oil is going to be discovered there. It's also now a tech center of today. And what religious faith? Christianity is going to be there. It's the most populous center because they do have the agricultural, as Nick got to. Okay, we are also really focused on the fact that the British controlled it the entire time, which is going to expedite the taking over of the natural resources. Okay, Here we go. So, for our sovereignty, our state sovereignty, where did we officially end, Jack? Where did we end yesterday, Jack?
Just at the sovereign, just United States people.
Okay, so did we talk about the military at all? Okay, here we go. So, Nigerian military is the most famous of all militaries in Africa. Okay, it's the most famous. It's the most famous because it's the oldest. Okay. It is also gets claim to fame of what accomplishment in the 1960s, Sydney? What does the Nigerian military do in the 1960s? Yeah, good too. Britain, yes. The Nigerian military beats the British. Now keep in mind, is this a full-on power of the British military? No, it was a losing war. The British knew they weren't going to be able to really win it because, colonialism isn't very popular in the 1960s, so the British kind of give it up, but technically the Nigerians do beat the British. Third thing you need to know, it is the best trained of all of your African militaries. And the fourth thing you do need to know about it, it is the highest, most respected aspect of the government by all Nigerians. Ladies and gentlemen, do Nigerians have a high regard for their government? No, for the fact that the military is the highest regard, okay, is important. Okay, so what you should know about the military, it is the oldest, it is the most respected. It does defeat the British, and Africans beating imperialist powers is a big old rousing thing, absolutely. And then the other component is that it is the only legitimized component of the military that all people celebrate in Nigeria. What is the big hypocrisy in the room about the Nigerian military being so highly respected? Emerson, what is it? Why is all this kind of strange when we talk about Nigeria? They're the most respected. They're the most legitimized. Oh no, Emerson.
Because you think like the leader would be the most respected?
Help me. Ethan.
Is it because they fought against their own people?
Yeah, because what they do, Ethan. They led what?
The Civil War?
Be careful in civil wars. We also had a civil war against us. Riley. The coups! Ladies and gentlemen, hello! What is Nigeria super famous for? Coups! So, what destabilizes Nigeria more than anything? Coups! Coup d'etats! So, it is a huge problem that the most respected thing in Nigeria is also the thing that cripples it. Okay, so, you need to understand the hypocrisy of the Nigerian military. It is the most respected, it is the most revered, and it also causes the most destabilizing components. Next thing you need to know about the Nigerian military, they have a thing called paper soldiers or ghost soldiers. What is a paper soldier, Caesar? What do you think it is? A paper soldier.
Someone who's not really strong with the no law power.
Nah, you're close, Jordan.
It's a fake person, so everything has a name.
There you go. It's a fake person, so write it down. You need to know the term ghost soldier or paper soldier. Keep in mind, what is the term that everything in Nigeria keeps going back to? Prebendalism. Prebendalism is taking care of your tribe. So, if Luke is our tribal leader and he's in charge of our military enforcement, he is going to sign up Jake, Mr. Clark, and Emily for war. But only Jake is going to go. The other two are going to stay here. Why? Why would we sign them up for war and not actually send them?
For money for the tribe.
Yeah, for money for the tribe. You need to understand that there are over 600,000 soldiers. Write it down. There are over 600,000 Nigerian soldiers on paper. but they estimate there's only about 400,000. Is this a big problem or a small problem? That's a big problem. Okay? This is pre-evangelism. People are signing other people up in order to get the check, but are not actually sending people to war. So, when you're going against Boko Haram, okay, and you're fighting these really, really intense conflicts in the jungles and the mountains, having more soldiers, is that beneficial? Yes, this is part of the problem of why Nigeria hasn't been able to beat Boko Haram. Okay, so you need to understand, okay, the military, perfect. You need to know that the Nigerian government has a low legitimacy. So, the military has a high legitimacy. It is respected in Nigeria. Okay, it is seen in high regard. However, the government is held in low regard. It has low legitimacy. Why would they believe it has low legitimacy, David? It's corrupt. Yes, corruption is a huge problem. They also have a lot of mistrust on other ethnic groups. Okay? With massive corruption comes distrust of government. Distrust of government creates corruption. If you think your government is failing, are you going to help yourself or are you going to protect it at all costs? You're going to help yourself. You're going to help yourself. If you know that other people are stealing and no one's getting caught, no one's getting in trouble, what are you going to start doing? You're going to start stealing too, and this leads to this whole idea. So, here in the United States, do we have high legitimacy of government or low legitimacy? High legitimacy. It's been higher. Okay, remember, we got degraded. However, we still have a pretty high regard of legitimacy. In Nigeria, it's incredibly low. Alright, your next heading is the influence of the British. Okay. We obviously know you cannot talk about Nigeria without talking about ethnic and regional divides. When we talk about regional divides, they're not the same group of people, but they have similar belief systems. You need to know that the British exploit it. What do I mean by the British exploiting ethnic divides, Ford?
They divided the tribes into different sections so they fight each other, not against the British.
That's my AP world right there. The British are super famous for it. What country do they do it the best in, Ford? Aw, it's like the perfect racial structure and system. It takes a long time to dismantle. Brooklyn. India? No. Close to it. Nope. Desmond. South Africa is where the British do it the best. It's an incredibly efficient system. It's called apartheid. It's obviously disgusting and deplorable. I'm not supporting it, but it is a very effective system. Okay? They put minority, very teeny, tiny minority groups in power, so the rest of the other ethnic groups hate that one minority group so much they forget to hate the British people. Okay? It causes all types of problems, and it's done to exploit issues to make the British more powerful. You need to understand that the British do indirect rule to the north and direct rule to the south. Why is the north indirect rule, Jake? There you go. It's hard to navigate, and it's they don't have a ton of resources up there, and we're all following Sharia law, so the British were kind of like, we'll just leave them alone. Down the south, that's where all the resources is, that's where they need it. Okay. One of the biggest things they get from the British is Western education. Write it down. The Nigerians today in 2023 are the most educated in all of Africa. They spend more per pupil than like 80% of most countries. They work really hard on Western education, and it is paying off. Nigeria today is becoming a tech center. Okay, it is the strongest GDP, and it is the strongest economy in Africa, and it's based on the education style. Okay, however, one of the biggest things that you have to understand is that when the British officially gave up Nigeria in 1960, there was a question. Should Nigeria even be a country? Write it down. The biggest question they had in 1960 when they gained their independence from the British. Should Nigeria be a country? Jimmy, why would they ask such a question?
I'm sorry.
They don't have a lot of power.
No, it's not the power thing. Why would they ask this question? And this question is still being asked in 2023. Why, Britt?
Oh, because of all like the tribes.
Okay, elaborate. You're correct, but
like
elaborate.
The ethnic like division.
Yeah,
You know
no.
what I mean?
Yeah, because it's hard to what, Britt?
Like unite them.
There you go. So, in 2023, there is a huge movement to divide Nigeria into 5 separate countries that are based on regional differences. Okay, as you can see, our northern territory, which is a majority of our Islamic, are going to be in their own country if it gets passed. Then we have the Niger Middle Belt, which would be, this is where most of your oil is. There are Biafra Republic, which is also another major oil hub. And then these 3, which are along the coastline, are going to be your major tech centers. So this is how divisive ethnic policies in Nigeria have been, that there is a huge movement to divide up Nigeria into 5 different countries. And all of this groundwork was laid by who? The British. The British. Colonialism is going to exploit these ethnic ties, create tension, create division, create isolationism, and that is what is going to lay the foundation. Okay, so here we go. 1960 to post-British is your next heading. Post-British, 1960 to 1979, we have a parliamentary system. Why does Nigeria copy the parliamentary system? Sydney, why?
Because they like how it works.
And then because why? You're completely correct, but tie it through.
Because it brought people together.
What happened pre-1960, girl? Who was in charge?
They had military.
No. Grant?
It could prevent military.
No. Guys, keep it simple, stupid. Why did they choose a parliamentary system in 1960 when they created a government? Jack? Yeah, the British were ruling in Nigeria, and they just kept the system going, yes? Everyone was already kind of used to it. Instead of burning everything down and starting again, they just kept rolling the system forward. So, 1960 to 1979, we have a parliamentary system. Because of all the coups, they're then going to implement the presidential system, yes? Because it's an easier transition. All right, are we ready for the hard stuff? All right, let's do it. Well, you don't really have a choice. We gotta go. Okay, so what's going to happen? Your first major Nigerian leader is going to be called the Great Zeke, or General Nyambi. Okay, he is your first major Nigerian leader. Okay, he is going to gain independence from the British into an independent Nigeria. So he is the transitional figure. He is going to be in power because he unifies the Muslims and the Christians. So he tries challenging the divisions that the British create and tries to unify them into one country. Now you'll notice that he went to University of West Virginia. He went to UPenn, which is obviously Ivy. Okay, so he's Western educated, American educated. Okay, you need to know that he does create a federal government, but uses a parliamentary system. So we have states. How many states are in Nigeria? 36 states. However, he does use a parliamentary government because that's what they were used to, so he's continuing that transition. He is going to be removed from power in 1966 by a coup, of course. So, this is your first republic. It is removed 6 years after it's created. Okay? And in 1966, we have our first military coup. Okay? So, Under the first military, I don't care. You don't need to know the guy's name who does the coup because he's only in power for 194 days, so it doesn't matter. In coups, typically you have a bunch of military leaders back to back, and they have very short terms. Why? Because, like, okay, so Donald Trump has not been arrested yet. People, it's now becoming common speculative that he's not going to get arrested today. Maybe tomorrow would be the earliest he would be, but anyway. The reason why it is such a big deal that a former president gets arrested is that it starts a precedent, yes? If one president gets arrested, then the next president can be arrested. And here in American history, we've never had this precedent, which is very respectable. Can we agree? Now, whether you agree Trump should be arrested or not arrested, that is whatever you want to say, but that precedent is there. When you do a military coup and you remove someone to power and you kill them, you've set the precedent of killing. So the reason why military coups go through so many people really quickly is because they just keep killing people. He gets to live for a couple years, but eventually they do kill him. It's because he's a threat. Yeah, he's a threat. Because if you can rally behind someone, you know, like if you overthrow like a royal family, you got to kill the kids. Why do you got to kill the kids? Yeah, there's no air, no one people can rally behind. Yeah, David, that's like the rule of history. If you're gonna overthrow a country, you got to kill the kids. You can't have some heirs running around. Okay, so underneath this first military coup, so we had the first republic rose and then it burned to the ground. In the first military coup, we're going to transition from a federal system to a unitary system. Now, we still have federal states, we still have those types of things, but it's still under a central government. Okay? So, now, this is a big date. In 1967, in a new territory in the South, they are going to discover oil in a new part of Nigeria. So in 1967, oil is discovered in a new part of South Nigeria. Okay? So, what's going to happen is Biafra, which is the region where the oil was located, secedes from Nigeria. Jake, what does it mean to secede? Yeah, they left. And why would they leave, Jake? They just discovered oil, and they want to secede from Nigeria. Why would they do that, Jake? Okay, and where do they want that money to go to? They want to keep their money for their who? For themselves and their tribes, right? Because prebendalism is the ultimate there. So, in 1967, oil is discovered in Biafra. Biafra is going to secede from Nigeria to create the Republic of Biafra. How do you think the rest of Nigeria feels about this? Yes, so put a big star. In 1967, we have the declaration of the Biafra Civil War. 1967, we have the Biafra Civil War. Okay, it is between the North and the South, essentially. It is going to kill between about 100,000 military members. Write it down. The Civil War will kill about 100,000 military, and will kill between 500,000 to 2 billion citizens, civilians. 2 million. Okay, and it will cause a massive refugee crisis that will destabilize the whole region of West Africa. Write it down. Okay, so the Biafra Civil War breaks out in 1967 over oil rights to a new territory. The war is going to rage from 1967 to 1970. And it will completely destabilize all of West Africa. And it will completely destroy Nigeria's economy. Write it down. Okay? Think about it. Ukraine. How's Ukraine looking right now? Not great. War is not good for a country when it's being fought in your country. It's not good. Now, if it's being fought in someone else's country, is it good for your country? Yeah. That's what we put America on top. And that's why we are the wealthiest nation in the world. But that's a whole other problem for another day. You need to know from the Civil War, the Biafran Civil War, that the Igbo people are blamed for the Civil War. So even to this day, in 2023, there is a negative connotation for Igbo people. That they are blamed for the atrocities of the Civil War. Have you seen these pictures of these kids?
No.
Yeah, these are obviously real pictures. This is the starvation that is going to occur because of it. Now keep in mind, this whole region of the world has been destabilized because of conflict, because of colonialism, all these other things. And then on top of it, we have a brutal civil war being fought over oil, okay? And the right to control this oil. And as we can see, the death coming from starvation is going to be the biggest killer. I mean, these kids are dying of like colds and sneezes and stuff like that because they just have no nutrients to keep them. All right, so in 1975, we start getting a little hope in Nigeria. So the Civil War goes from 1967 to 1970. In 1975, we have Brigadier General Murtala Muhammad, who comes into power. You do need to know that name, because he is a turning point in Nigerian history. Okay? When he comes into power, he is going to fire 10,000 government employees. Why would he fire 10,000 government employees, Selena? The government's corrupt. So he's trying to stop what? Corruption. He's trying to end corruption. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good thing. He's trying to stop corruption. He's going to fire 150 military officers. Like, he's trying to eradicate the problems, right, Grant? He is doing the work. He comes up with a plan. In 4 years, Nigeria is no longer under military coup, but is under a democratic system. Does this sound good? Yes. So he comes into power in 1975, and he's trying to do the work. He's doing the work. He gets assassinated. I know. Things started turning around for Nigeria, but this is a turning point. This is a turning point for Nigeria, because the people start getting excited. They start seeing hope. They start seeing, like, damn it, we're going to do this. Okay? And then someone kills them. Okay? So, what's going to happen is in 3 years later, okay, 1979, a guy named Yusubano rises into power through the government. Okay? And he is going to lead Nigeria. He is the actual turning point and the step in the right direction. Okay? So in 1979, he comes into power in Nigeria. He is going to write the federal constitution, which is actually creating a presidency, which is actually trying to get democracy back into Nigeria. Okay? So, Grant, do better. And then you need to know that he is the presidential, he's going to create the presidential government, and he also creates the Federal Election Commission. Write it down, Grant. So in 1979, he is going to write the federal constitution. He is going to do the Federal Election Commission. Under Federal Election Commission, it is the second most respected agency of the government. What's number one? Military, then the Federal Election Commission. In Nigeria, the people of Nigeria can really only agree on two things, and what are those two things? Military and the FEC. Okay? They truly do believe the FEC is trying to do the work, and it is this guy's creation that does it. Okay, so just Just a quick recap, because that's a lot of information. Can we agree? So 1967 to 1970, we have the Biafran Civil War. Brennan, you think I'm up here for my entertainment? Pick that head up. Thanks. So the Biafran Civil War is breaking out. It's over oil and it's over control. Biafran loses. Nigeria wins. They come back into alignment. And Nigeria is unified in 1970. The Igbo are blamed. Okay? And it will still stain their name. You need to know in 1979, the presidential system comes into place. However, military coups are still a problem. Okay, your next heading is going to be economic dependence on oil. Okay, we know that there are two major sources of oil in Nigeria. One is in the Niger River Valley Delta, which is where the British had known it's been. And then they also have it in Biafran. So there are two places. In Nigeria, they are completely dependent on it for their GDP, which makes them a what state? Rentier state. You need to know that. They are based, their GDP is based entirely on their oil revenue, Lucas. Because of that, they're a rentier state. As we know, they are going to gain their independence in 1960. When the British leave, Lucas, are they capable of oil extraction? No, they are not. Oil extraction is very difficult and it's very expensive. So a brand new nation, do they have the money and the resources? No. So write it down. Nigeria goes into debt immediately for oil extraction. What two countries are going to control the debt of Nigeria? What two countries, Alex?
U.S.
No, actually. Isn't that surprising? It's usually the U.S. And in this case, we are not involved. Isn't that nice? And if you're in my AP World class, you know it's usually the United States, but no. So if it's not the U.S., who has to be?
UK.
UK, absolutely. Write it down. The UK is a huge debt holder of Nigeria. It's another European country. We don't really mention them that much, mostly because they got their butts kicked in World War II. Who is it? Sophia. Germany. Germany and the UK are the ones who control pretty much all the debt of Nigeria. Why does it make sense that the UK controls most of the debt? Why? Yeah, they were there before. So, think about it. Okay, if my classroom is our country, underneath the classroom, there's a bunch of oil. All we have to do is tap into that oil and it's ours, yes? Okay, but if I have the technology and you don't have the technology, am I going to give it to you? No. What am I going to do? I'm going to lend it to you at crazy high prices that essentially the British are going to get 50% of all profits of all the oil that comes out of Nigeria. Because the only way you can get the oil is using British technology. So if you can't get the oil without my technology, I deserve half. So what is going to happen is that the UK and Germany are going to exploit the hell out of the Nigerian economy. Write it down. They're going to completely burden their economy with debt. So, if you are too in debt, what do you have to do? You have to declare yourself bankrupt. And that's exactly what happens. Okay? They go into bankruptcy because of their over-reliance on oil. And of course, corruption is not helping any of this. Yes? So what is going to happen is that Nigeria in the 1980s, and this is the big point that you really need to know, is going to go to international organizations to restructure their debt. Write it down. They have to. Structural adjustment of their debt. What does that mean? What does that mean? If you declare bankruptcy, how do you get out of bankruptcy as a person? Ian, how do you do it? Okay, you have to go to the company and say, hey, this is the assets I can give you right now. How much can I get for this? And then you come up with a program that you'll pay back a certain amount for the rest of your life or until you die. Essentially, that's how it works. Same thing is happening with Nigeria. Nigeria is going to go to the World Bank Organization, write it down, write it down. Nigeria goes to the World Bank Organization and the International Monetary Fund and say, this is my debt. I need to get out of this in the 1980s. Okay? They come up with a plan. Nigeria, write it down, pays off its debts in about 30 years. Is that impressive? Yes. And they reinvest. Write this down. They reinvest that money into their technology sectors. Not in oil. Why are they transitioning away from oil into technology? Brooklyn. Yeah, at some point, all of this dinosaur goop that we burn is going to disappear. Technology is the future, and that's what they're banking on. Because of this reinvestment of their technology and in their debt using the World Bank Organization and the International Monetary Fund, they have restabilized their economy. Write it down. By using World Bank and International Monetary Fund, they have restabilized their economy. They have increased their GDP. And they have a strong economic future. So, in all of our other countries, like the UK, does the World Bank and International Monetary Fund play a huge role? No. Mexico is really the first country that we've studied that actually kind of used it and benefited from it, correct? Getting all that loans to make all those factories up by the border. This country, Nigeria, is going to be the most efficient use, and I'd probably put a star on this, is going to be the most effective country in utilizing these multinational corporations. They're the ones who benefit the most. So Mexico is the first one to really start using them, but Nigeria is the one who really puts it to work, and because of that, they have truly stabilized their economy. Do they still have lots of problems? Yes, of course. However, have they really pulled themselves out of a really dark, deep hole? Absolutely. It's pretty cool, right? So, you do need to know at the end for Nigerian economy, you do need to know they still rely on oil. They're still a rentier state, so most of their GDP is coming from it, but they have really diversified into technology, and they are the tech hub of Africa. And they're doing some really cool stuff. Anyway, all right. That's it for me. I mean, do we like Nigeria or no? Do you think it's